David Shearer Show. Pleased you could join us. So I'm talking today with Mike Lee, who's the chair of the Auckland Regional Council, and Jeremy Harris, who's the member of the Campaign for Better Transport. And we're talking about how these CCOs, these council-controlled organisations are going to be set up under the Super City, are going to relate to the big issue of transport. Mike, great to have you with us. Thanks for joining us on this show. We're talking about the CBD tunnel and also the loop out to the airport. I wonder if you could just add some light on certainly the economic benefits and where this project has been over the last few years.
Well, an underground rail tunnel through Auckland has been talked about and planned for since 1924.
It's that long, eh?
Yep. And in the late 1940s, it was formerly part of a Ministry of Works plan for upgrading rail in Auckland. The earlier incarnations of the tunnel were from the old Beach Road railway station under Albert Park, and
so we'll go through Albert Park and then come out at Beach Road where the old railway station was.
Station by the town hall.
Yeah.
The present trajectory is very similar in a way. It's up Albert Street.
Yeah.
But the technical benefit is that you can almost double the throughput of Britomart station from about 20 to 40, or just under 40. It's completely tied in with electrification, of course. One of the arguments that justified electrification, kind of ironically in a way, is that you would need to have electric trains in order to transit the underground tunnel.
Right.
So,
the
idea of a
fed off
tunnel
each other in a way.
underpinned the case for electrification. Now we have to go back and justify the tunnel itself.
Yeah.
In terms of economic benefits, well, again, there is a case being constructed right now, a business case for it.
Yeah.
I commented to someone a few weeks ago, hey, why should it take so long to do that? It's a no-brainer, isn't it? They said, no, there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Well, it does need to be done, because that does sort of slightly concern me as well, that I would have thought that if you can double the number of trains going through, it means that people have to wait 3 minutes or whatever for a train on average at a station. I mean, and with Auckland growing the way it is, I mean, Wellingtonians don't like to hear it, but we're growing by one Wellington city every 8 years. I mean, surely that's sort of a no-brainer case for increasing rail throughput.
Well, David, if it was if it was justified the same way as you justify roads of national significance, then yes, you wouldn't need a business case. But I actually, in regard to the business case, I'm confident that the people who are putting it together will make a pretty good fist of it.
Right. Okay.
It'll be thorough, it'll be rigorous, and we would say it's a no-brainer, but they'll have a lot of evidence, compelling evidence, I imagine, to make it almost impossible to resist.
Okay.
But there is going to be an issue with finding the money to fund it, I would guess, with this government.
I think the good thing is that it comes out in September, which is the month before the Super City election as well, so we can hopefully get a good commitment from the Mayor on it.
Yeah, it's a great,
look, talk is cheap. To be honest with you, John Banks, and I may be being unfair, but John Banks for the last 2 years has kind of banged on about trains everywhere. He's, any train, he'll support it. Now, as opposed to the previous John Banks that tried desperately to stop Britomart Station, and he called it on a number of occasions things like, we don't want a train garage at the bottom of Queen Street. But now he supports trains. I know Len Brown supports trains. So, it may be helpful if it comes out at in the time of the campaign, but I guess everyone's going to be supporting trains by then.
Well, that's what the sort of the hope is, isn't it? But I think one of the reasons I guess we're talking about it now is that it's certainly the CBD tunnel is something that is really, really important, but perhaps it hasn't excited the imagination of Aucklanders perhaps as much as train link out to the airport or something like that. But yet, as you have said, and Jeremy was saying before, it's so fundamental for the train service to work efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if we were serious about it, if we were to give rail the priority it deserves, we would be doing both at the same time. Right. I think the CBD rail tunnel is 3 kilometres in length, and the extension from the Onehunga branch line to Auckland International Airport is 9 kilometres. Yeah. To be sensible, you would loop it right round back to the main trunk line, but theoretically you could just run it from the Onehunga branch line that extra 9 kilometres. Now, these are no-brainers. There's a huge catchment of potential patronage at the airport, and we do have congestion problems.
Yeah. I think another point to make for people who aren't that familiar with transport issues is, I was talking before about the overcrowding that ART is projecting in 2016. We can't go and add a airport line that's going to feed into Britomart if we're going to have potentially chronic overcrowding by 2016.
More trains, more
you need not worry, Jeremy, about trying to slow down the airport extension. It's going to take a huge effort to even get people to take it really seriously.
Yeah. What I'm talking about is people who advocate for the airport line without advocating for the CBD rail tunnel.
Well, I don't know who they are.
They'd have to go hand in hand, though.
I don't think we need to. One thing we don't need to do is have an argument about extensions. I think we all agree that we need a fully developed rail network in Auckland, and it will completely need a CBD loop tunnel, and that has to have priority. However, if we were really serious about giving rail the status, rapid transit rail the status it deserves in Auckland, we would also be looking at getting that 9 kilometres done on the surface at the same time, really.
Right. Now, this is interesting because I was speaking to a couple of other transport people the other day, and they were suggesting that rather than extending the line from Onehunga out to the airport across the bridge, which fortunately the new Mangere Bridge there has been rail-proofed in the sense that
and that took a lot of effort to get that done.
Yeah, I heard that. That was one of your.
Yeah, I used to bang on for a couple of years, and they said, you can build another bridge when you get your airport rail, Mr. Lee, knowing that it'll never happen.
Think it'll never happen, rolling their eyes behind your back, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it was actually appealed to the Environment Court to get that included.
Right. Well, I mean, I think it was a bit of inspired, obviously inspired forethought. But I've heard also people saying that you said that they'll loop through Onehunga out to the airport and then round to sort of through Manukau City and then back onto the number 1 line. Yeah. As a first step, would it make sense to go from Manukau straight to the airport rather than go through Onehunga, or what's your sense about that?
Well, I don't know, to be honest. The Onehunga one is in a straight direction, so therefore. Yeah. If you're looking at rapid transit, and I don't think we place enough emphasis on the speed of rail, and what that means in terms of shrinking, or overcoming the tyranny of distance. Yeah. People want a quick journey. Now, I get emails sent to me from all over the place, as we all do, but one of them comes from Taiwan, and on Monday, I don't normally open it up, but I opened it up, and the first thing I saw was the president has called upon the Taiwan airport rail project for the journey to be quicker. It's 51.5 kilometres, and I think it's Taoyuan. It used to be Chiang Kai-shek, but I noticed with interest they changed the name to Taoyuan Airport into Taipei, 51.5 kilometres. Yeah. It's going to have 22 stations, but the thing that got me was it's going to take 3 years to build. And I thought, hang on, divide by this 9 kilometres. Hey, they could do our one in 7 months.
maybe we should be looking at the Taiwanese to come and do it for us. I can imagine that with the same sort of problems, same sort of issues that came up with the trying to build the electric trains here and down in Dunedin anyway, that there was a bit of a fuss with that. I mean, I think Auckland, well, everybody would like to see that this expertise resides in New Zealand. I think Auckland was saying, gee, how long is this really going to take to be able to do this?
Yes, that's an interesting point. I mean, I support that in principle, and our whole rail fleet in Auckland has been put through Hillside or Woburn, and thanks to Auckland's rail project, those facilities, which probably would have been closed down or cannibalised, have been kept going because of Auckland, and they should know that. When it came to the Wellington electric trains, there seemed to be no concern about getting them built in New Zealand, but when it came to the Auckland trains, there was this issue, and maybe I'm being a little bit parochial about it, but I think we need to enhance and build up our rail sector.
Yeah.
But I don't believe we have the expertise to build electric trains as efficiently or as competitively as some of the major players in the world today. That's because we've never done it before.
Yeah. No.
And also, the report from, I think it was Bill, said that we'd have to wait an extra 3 years if they were built overseas.
Yeah.
So I mean, given the crowding issues we're already looking at, I'm not in favour of waiting any time.
No, I think Auckland was sort of. I mean, it was sort of looked at that prospect and sort of thought, oh no, don't tell us it's going to take even longer. Much as everybody was very sympathetic about them being built in New Zealand. Mike, just on the economic benefits to the city itself. I mean, this is something that we've talked about, obviously the throughput and the journeys per minute and all that sort of stuff. What about the economic benefits to Albert Street, Gahankrang, Road, Newton, wherever these railway stations are going to be?
Yeah, well, again, you and I and Jeremy would say no-brainer, but there are people who are diligently investigating that right now. I understand 500,000 people, new people or extra people, will be put within 30 minutes of the CBD.
Yeah.
That's going to have, from what we know of what transport links do to property values, that's going to certainly enhance the property values in the city. It also means that a whole bunch of people living in the city apartments now are going to have much better PT. It will, I believe, enhance the Auckland CBD. I just walked up Queen Street yesterday, and it's kind of now a sort of Upper Queen Street is more or less a great big university campus, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the major shopping outlets have now gone off to the malls,
right.
And I'm not a big supporter of mall culture in the sense malls go with urban sprawl and congested motorways. I would like to see a lot of value coming back to Queen Street in terms of it being a premier, the premier street of New Zealand, and it's looking at, despite the huge amount of money that was spent on it by Auckland City Council in recent years, it's still not looking like a premier, the premier street of New Zealand, as it once was. And I believe the inner city loop will certainly have a major impact on putting a lot of value back into the CBD, making it way more accessible, and generally enhancing it.
Yeah.
So all of those things are to be welcomed.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see development of a lot more office buildings and job growth in the CBD, which makes all PT more viable. You're going to have fuller buses, so we get a better spend of ratepayer money. You're going to see, and the other part of it is the environmental side. You're going to have lower car emissions, and that's killing 500 Aucklanders a year now. And the NZTA put the value of each of their lives, they do, it's sad, but they do, at 1.4 million.
Right.
And if you look at public transport, it's inherently safer than a private car. So, for instance, the Auckland roading system carries about 1 billion people a year, and so does the London Underground. 4 people a year die on the London Underground and 82 on our roads. Right. So, and that's year on year on year on year on year. So those are all economic.
It's interesting
benefits.
when the road toll went down, as an aside, and the road toll went down in New Zealand. It just happened to be the time when the fuel prices went through the roof and everybody got out of their cars, and nobody quite made that correlation that it could have actually been due the drop in the number of deaths that have actually been done to the trips being reduced.
And Mike Lee mentioned about how I heard it's 300,000 to 500,000 people are now going to be within half an hour of the CBD via rail. That means we've got all these extra people who are able to travel on a system that's independent of the road system. And the main justification for any transport projects is time saving. So not only do the people who can travel free of congested roads get a time saving benefit, but most of the benefit will go to the road users who have one less car to deal with on their way to any destination they're going to. So I'm very much looking forward to the benefit cost analysis.
I'll tell you one thing that's given me a lot of confidence in the planners for the CBD Loop Tunnel. The way they identified Newton and Upper Simon Street as a station area, and I thought, what a stroke of brilliance. They put a little bit of a dogleg rather than a straight engineering line, and suddenly you've got that area which is, a funky old area, and quite lovely in its own way up on that ridge. That's going to be really, really enhanced, I reckon, by having a nice underground station there. That's just going to be wonderful.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's an area that you sort of think it's nearly there, but it's just not quite.
Yeah, and I think, hey, what a smart thing to do. I never would have thought of that. That's just great. Good on you guys.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting the other. I bumped into you, Mike, the other day when the Avondale railway station upgrade was being officially opened, and Duncan MacDonald was talking about the fact that Avondale railway station has been there since 1880, which actually was a surprise to me. I didn't think it was that old. But as soon as the railway station opened, the property values went up 3 times.
There you go. Yeah.
And that was back then. But already with the railway station being upgraded in Avondale and shifted right into the middle of Avondale now, businesses are looking to relocate back into Avondale. So that's another area which is sort of almost there, is just been crawling around on its knees, and hopefully this will give it a little bit of a boost to really get some economic development going again in Avondale. Just a last word perhaps on the politics of the super city coming up and that sort of thing. How do you think, and the CCO regional transport organisation being developed, agency being developed, what do you think? Are there any hiccups in the way of getting keeping this rail momentum going?
I would hope not. Obviously, the super city has a strongly blue tinge now, and what I would call Roger politics has somewhat tainted it in the sense of the emphasis given to CCOs and getting as much power away from democratic representatives into, these pseudo-commercial boards. However, the overall concept, I believe, of a unified Auckland is something worth supporting. It would be the politics in the super city therefore would be to get as much power back from the CCOs and to get as much transparency and accountability into the system as possible, so that people can have faith and confidence in this new city. I've never defended the status quo, to be honest with you, because people, to be frank, are not happy with it. They haven't been happy with the culture and local government in recent years. So here's a chance to have a new start. The government and the ATA will try and create a super city which, in their own image and likeness, and it'll be up to the people of Auckland and their representatives to claw back power and to reshape the super city into something that is progressive and democratic and really reflects the spirit of Auckland.
I think this it goes without saying, I guess, is that this new first council is going to be all important because, in a sense, as you say, I think the definitely the way it's been created, the structure of the super city is very much tilted in the way of sort of independent, more corporatised sort of a model rather than a democratic model. And it would be for this new council to take the reins and push it back to, in a sense, to a sort of more democratic accountability that perhaps it's lacking.
Well, I find when I'm looking at transport plans, I'm always quite amazed at how many people are working towards the first kind of plans that were ever formulated by a council. So the first, in my opinion, is the makeup of the first council, and the plans that Auckland Transport, as it's known, lay down are going to be really, really important.
Yeah. It's as I say, an enormous corporation. I mean, with 53% of the rates and more than 40% of the land area of Auckland. I mean, that's a and it's only obliged to hold 2 public meetings a year, which I can imagine that they're not going to get too much business done on a day like that.
That'll be a two-edged sword. If they have somebody that's inspirational running it, it could work.
Yeah.
Let's give it a chance. But if it's just the standard CCO old boy network with some of the unimaginative attitudes that often goes with that culture, then there could be real problems of that CCO actually falling behind the pace of public expectations, and the real expertise around PT that's growing in Auckland with people like CBT, with people like Josh Arbery at Auckland Transport Blog and John C at AKT. All of that means that people are very well informed and have really good ideas about PT. So that's going to be a challenge for this monolithic, huge organisation to keep up with. If they fall too far behind, or if they don't show inspirational leadership, and they try and shut up shop and become reactionary, then there's going to be real political problems with that organisation.
Where do you? What sort of a person would you be looking for to head that organisation?
I'd be looking for a person who comes to Auckland and takes one look at it and says, "What a bloody shambles! How on earth did you get into the situation? Oh, is that what happened in the 1950s? Well, hey, let's sort that out. Let's get a international standard rail service going. Let's push ahead on all fronts." To do that, let's look at the bus service, because you Aucklanders seem to be a little bit focused too much on trains, and you're doing nothing about buses. That service is pretty damn hopeless and pretty expensive. Let's get that fixed up. What I understand that you had a light rail service in Auckland that carried over 80 million passengers per year when you only had 300,000 people in the whole city. What happened to that? Well, let's have a look at that. Let's get some of that going again. If we got that sort of person, I'd be applauding them.
Right. Yeah.
And that's taking ideas from overseas, I think. You know, if Winnipeg, which is a city that has no railways and busways, can get 3 times the patronage per capita than we do, there's no reason we can't almost blatantly copy what they're doing to get the same results.
They're not that different to us, surely, are they? It's well, I think. I think there's a sense that ARTA has done a reasonable job in the time that it's been in up and running. I mean, that's only 5 years. When was it?
It's about 6 years.
6 years now.
They started at exactly the same time as I became chair of the ARC. So battled in the wilderness to get some power over PT, and just at the time I was elected as chairman of the ARC, they set up ARTA.
Well, at least you had some ability to influence.
Exactly.
Certainly with the
and I've had a good relationship with ARTA chairs over the years. Brian Roche, Mark Ford, and Rabin Rabindran. To be honest with you, I didn't think ARTA was necessary. Wellington does fine without an ARTA. They've done an okay job. I don't think this new agency is necessary either. No. But as with ARTA, let's give them as much support as we can, because their objective is to improve PT, and so is ours.
Well, if we get some of the more enlightened folk that were with ARTA, who obviously were working on public transport, coming into the Auckland Transport Agency, which is going to be responsible, obviously, for all transport, not just public transport, then we might have a slightly different culture than what we're used to in terms of transport planners dominating Auckland's planning.
Yeah, well, one of the problems that I see with AT is if you look at the makeup of it, it's not until you get to the third tier that you have anyone in management whose job title involves the word public transport or anything to do with
really?
it.
Okay.
So it's good that Fergus is higher up because he understands he understands the issues. But you know, the design or the structure, it has a very road focus. So we kind of, some of us who are public transport advocates kind of refer to it as the Auckland branch of the NZTA. But I take on board what Mike's saying about giving them a chance and seeing how they go. But I think they can expect the public, because the public does overwhelmingly support public transport in polls, and so they can expect to hear about it if people don't like it or don't feel they're getting enough public meetings. And I think there'll be a lot of pressure for change, especially because we've just gone through a change. We're getting used to change, or we're in the mode for change if it's not working pretty sharpish.
Yeah.
Well, Dave might become Minister of Transport in the not too distant future, and
wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? I could tell you what, there'll be a few changes.
He could democratise the whole thing. But I mean, let's give it a chance.
Yeah.
As you say, Jeremy, I agree with you. It's certainly not my ideal model, and we spoke out long and hard against it. But it's going to be there. Let's try and work with it. There are some good people there. But if it doesn't work out, they're going to be hearing from people like us for sure.
Absolutely. Well, this is going to be perhaps one of the election issues of the election of the new super city. So, Mike, you're in the running there. So we'll be behind you and certainly your leadership on public transport. I'm sorry, we've got to leave it there now. We're running out of time. Thank you very much to Mike Lee, the chairman of the Auckland Regional Council, and Jeremy Harris from the Campaign for Better Transport, a lobby group trying to improve transport in Auckland. We'll be back same time next week, 9:05 on Thursday, here at 104.6 Planet FM. Or if you want to, you can listen to this show and other shows on the website. Go to David Shearer, www.davidshearer.org.nz. Bye for now. Have a good week.
From the Sky Tower, Planet FM on 104.6.
An actor's life for me.
Every actor worth his salt strives to be honest and true in his portrayals on the stage or screen. Hello, this is Ian McKellen, and that's exactly what This Way Out does as well. Join Greg and Lucia each week for This Way Out, the international lesbian and gay radio magazine, right here on this station.
And this station is Planet FM 104.6. Listen up for This Way Out at 20 minutes to midday every Saturday.
Radio Improv. I'm Pat Armitstead, the global voice for all that is joyful about humanity. Join us as we bring meaning and purpose to people's lives.
Radio Improv.
Sourcing expression of the real you.
Radio Improv.
An integrated approach to well-being.
Radio Improv.
Real people and real stories.
Radio Improv.
Celebrating humour in business and life.
Radio Improv.
Leading you to a happy, engaged and meaningful life. Join us 7:20 Tuesday night or listen online at planetaudio.org.nz.
The David Shearer Show will be back again next Thursday at 9:05 a.m. Or you can download this week's program over the next 7 days. Just go to planetaudio.org.nz. Korean Catholic Radio is on air every weekday at 9:40. Stay tuned, they will go live in just a few minutes.